In the headlines, President Tinubu meets Sultan Oni and other traditional rulers in Aso Rock as they urge him to use traditional rulers to tackle insecurity. Uber Bolt drivers protest fuel subsidy removal in Abuja. 30-year-old photographer commits suicide in Jigawa a few months after marriage. And on the foreign scene, Saudi Arabia and US say Sudan sides agree 24-hour ceasefire from Saturday. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Abdurrahman Omar. Thanks for joining. And now the news in full. The Oni of Ife, Uba Adeyeye Enitan Ogunwosi Ojaja II, has said traditional rulers are well grounded on challenges of insecurity. Hence, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should employ their services to tackle it. He gave the charge during a courtesy visit by the National Council of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria, NCRTN, to the President at the State House Conference Center, Abuja. Oni, who is also the co-chair of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria, said there are areas we would like to work with you, one of which is security. It is time to use us more. We are not saying we are idle, but to make your work easier, use us. Earlier, Sultan of Sokoto Saad Abubakar III said the visit is a normal tradition by the monarchs whenever there is a change in leadership of the country. He said the monarchs are people of different professions, from the military to judiciary and businessmen, who have what it takes to contribute to the betterment of the society, saying, "Whenever you reach out to us, we will be here." The Sultan, who said the monarchs do not envy President Tinubu at this time with the numerous challenges facing the country, however, expressed confidence that with the combination of himself and Vice President Kashim Shettima, they will deliver. Also in attendance is Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume. Traditional rulers drawn from the country's 6 geopolitical zones attended the event. President Bola Tinubu on Thursday met with lawmakers-elect under the platform of the All Progressives Congress, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, the Labour Party, LP, the New Nigerian People Party, NNPP, and other 4 parties that will constitute the 10th National Assembly. Those in attendance at the conference hall of the State House in Abuja include Vice President Kashim Shettima, outgoing Senate President Ahmed Lawan, as well as outgoing Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Bajabiamila, amongst others. The president tasked lawmakers to put the nation first and downplay party politics in the discharge of their duties, as he extended a hand to fellowship to the lawmakers. He also called on the lawmakers to work together to choose good leaders in the 10th National Assembly. Bajabiamila, who conveyed the message of the president, said the next 4 years will make or mar the development of the country. He said the 3rd National Assembly must work in partnership with the president for a successful administration.
At a very low end in our country, at a point where we need to start doing things differently. At a point where the next 4 years will either make or mar development in our country.
Happy we've had this family meeting, not as APC senators-elect, not as House of Reps senators-elect, but as Nigerians who will be federal lawmakers. And the most important thing we tell our colleagues always is that once we get sworn in on that day, on the 13th, we will become federal legislators. We will become senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. No more senator of APC or senator of no.
This is the first time the president, before the inauguration of the National Assembly, summoned a meeting of all members of the National Assembly, irrespective of political parties, to implore them to consider national unity, to coalesce into a single force with a view to moving the Nigerian project forward.
What he did, because he could have ignored this and started his government. But when you see a man who's interested in the foundation of the home he wants to build, how strong it becomes. will determine the height of such building, the strength of that building, the durability of that building, how that building will be able to face storms that will come during the rainy day.
Bolt and Uber drivers staged a protest in Abuja saying the fuel subsidy removal has wreaked havoc on the business. They called on the government to create indigenous app to help cushion exploitation of the apps companies. The apps using drivers in Abuja converged on the Millennium Park Abuja to express their frustration with subsidy removal and also their displeasure with the apps company. They called the creation of an alternative app that will bring succor and reduce the suffering of the drivers. Some of the drivers further said since the price hike of premium motor spirit, drivers are still paying the same percentage, making life difficult for them.
The essence of this protest is as a result of the fuel hike, the increase in the fuel price, and then if you understand, fuel we're buying for 197, 199 has been increased with over 270%, and then that's the reason why we are here. We are asking the app companies that we're working with to at least increase our fare with the same 200%. We are not even asking for 277%. We are asking them to reduce their commission from 25% to at least 10%. So basically this is what we are asking for. The funny thing is that many Nigerians don't even understand that Bolt does not own cars in Nigeria. They don't fuel these cars. We the drivers are the ones that pay Bolt. We literally finance them. And yet, at the end of the day, after buying petrol at the current price in Abuja of 540 naira, sometimes even more from black markets, at the end of the day, you go home with nothing. But guess what? Bolt still insisted and put their percentage at 25%. Now, the moment you don't make that payment, they block you from receiving trips until you clear off that balance, which is what is meant to be fine. But why 25%?
The skyrocketing price of commodities is biting harder on Nigerians following pump price increase across the country. While the traders are lamenting over the increase in cost of transporting their commodities, buyers are also expressing pain buying at higher price. Trust TV's Bello Musa visited Sheikh Abubakar Gumi Market in Kaduna and sent in this report.
Increase in the pump price is reflecting in the price of goods and services in the market. Nigerians are now paying higher to purchase foodstuff and other necessities in the market. The situation, Kaduna residents say, is biting hard on them.
After the increase of the price of fuel, it drastically affected everything in the market. You see products that we're getting, a product that you're getting normally for maybe 100 naira, be skyrocketed. Sometimes they double the price. Like in the market now, you hardly find anything that has to do with price control.
You ask me, the price of goods are very good. It's going high every day. If you come to today's market to buy something, before you know, tomorrow it will add more.
We are now paying higher for the transportation of goods we buy from far places, and we have to include it in the price of items we sell. For this resident, the government should look into the plight of Nigerians and ease their suffering. They are appealing to government to introduce programs and policies that will stimulate the economy.
A call to the government regards to the opening of the border. The idea is good. You know, when we have inflow of goods to Nigeria and we are exporting goods to Nigeria, you know, the economy will boost. We have, you know, and people will have something doing.
For me, for my take on that, I think the borders should be open, because the essence of closing those borders was to control prices and also for us to appreciate our domestic commodity. Example, you see rice. They were like, if we should close the borders, people will not import rice again and the price of rice will go high. Now, if you can see, the local rice that we have here is only the high and the mighty that can afford it. The common man finds it difficult to afford the common rice.
To hit the nail at the point is to resist the high cost of imposing taxation on goods. You understand me? If they can reduce the high cost of imposing taxation of goods, you see the cost of living will be reduced to be minimal.
The reality of subsidy removal is here, though many Nigerians are expecting palliatives from government to ease the cushion its biting effects. Bello Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
A 13-year-old man, Usman Sani Guga, a photographer, has committed suicide in Babura local government area of Jigawa State. The deceased father said that the incident happened on Wednesday at Akola quarters, Babura local government. He said the deceased used a rope and hung himself in his bedroom. NSCDC spokesman Adamu Shehu, who confirmed the incident, said according to the available information from the deceased wife, her husband dropped her at one of his relatives' houses that fateful day, with a promise to pick her up later in the evening. Adamu said the cause of his action is not known and an investigation is going on to ascertain the reason for his death. The deceased got married about 4 months ago. A Catholic priest identified as Father Charles Igechi was shot dead by gunmen on Wednesday while on his way back to his place of assignment at St. Michael College, Ekweneru, Edo, where he was serving as vice principal of the college. The deceased was ordained a priest on 13th August last year. The incident comes almost a year after 2 abducted priests, Reverend Father Odo Peter of St. Patrick's Catholic Church, Uromi, and Reverend Father Pilemon Obo of St. Joseph Retreat Center, Oboha, in Eastern Southeast local government area, were killed in the same state. Although the police authorities are yet to make any statement on the incident, the Catholic Archdiocese of Benin City has confirmed the killing. The Catholic Archbishop of Benin City, Augustine Akubeze, denounced the incident in a notice on Thursday to the priest and members of the Archdiocese. Bishop Akubeze said the slain priest remains were found by Boundary Street in Ekoba Hill, Ekoba Oka local government area of Edo State, and that the incident has been reported to the appropriate security agency. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum has directed the Ministry of Health to investigate and fish out medical staff on duty for allegedly rejecting victims of accidents rushed to Omaru Shehu Ultra Modern Hospital in Maiduguri. Zulum gave the directive on Thursday at the accident and emergency unit of the hospital. The governor's visit to the hospital was a response to a video clip which went viral showing how some medical officers allegedly rejected accident victims brought to the hospital on a date and time that will be determined by investigators. He gave 24 hours for a probe team to identify the medical workers involved and to recommend appropriate sanctions. He said that the state government has invested in the health sector, including the welfare of the medical officers across the state, and called on medical officers to reciprocate the gesture by providing quality healthcare services to all patients without discrimination. Police in Kano say dozens of suspects involved in looting and criminal activities during the demolition of structures on public lands have been arrested. These arrests come in response to reports received by the police concerning opportunistic looting that occurred during the demolition of illegal buildings and structures by the Kano State government. Police say the total number of suspects now stand at 106, all of whom have been charged to Magistrate Court 35, No Man's Land, Kano. The police have advised victims of this criminal act to promptly visit the State Criminal Investigation Department, Bombay Kano State Police Command, to give testimonies and identify any stolen property. In a statement signed by Superintendent of Police Abdullahi Kiawa, the Police Public Relations Officer, the Commissioner of Police urged the public to remain vigilant and work hand in hand with law enforcement agencies to uphold peace and security in the state. You are watching News Update on Trust TV. Coming off after the break, we take a look at no more overstay in Holy City. Details of these and more after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back, and if you are just joining us, this is News Update on Trust TV. Now, a recap of our top stories. President Tinubu meets Sultan Oni and other traditional rulers in Aso Rock as they urge him to use traditional rulers to tackle insecurity. And Uber Bolt drivers protest fuel subsidy removal in Abuja. Now, moving on to other stories. Nigeria's Ombudsman, the Public Complaints Commission, is facing industrial arrest from Joint Staff Union demanding improved welfare and payments of outstanding allowances. The union staged protest outside the premises of the commission in Abuja. The report. The Public Complaints Commission is the Nigeria's Ombudsman, whose responsibility is to entertain, examine and investigate complaints on behalf of ordinary Nigerian workers. Speaking with the chairman, Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria Public Complaints Commission Chapter, Margaret Chujoke, said that government failed to recognize the existing mandate of the commission.
Yes, I would like to appeal to the federal government to fund the Public Complaints Commission. It's the Nigerian Ombudsman, the voice of the voiceless. Is where the common man can come in and seek redress. If the Public Complaints Commission is working, corruption will not take place, because corruption happens when there is failure of administrative processes. When people thwart administrative processes to their own gain is when corruption happens. But if Public Complaints Commission is working, you will not need. Now, what the government is doing, instead of Public Complaints Commission, they are duplicating, creating more organizations on doing the same job that they should have funded us to do. The act is very robust.
It is not a normal day at the Public Complaints Commission headquarters, Abuja, where people come for a brief from administrative injustice. Three joint unions in the commission are protesting failure of the management to fully implement the approved consolidated legislative salary scale, COLS, among other demands.
We are picketing over the issue of staff welfare, particularly refusal of management to pay up arrears of 5 years promotion, and then to pay up their COLS being owed. We still have some percentage that is yet to be paid.
While Assistant General Secretary Federal Council Nigerian Civil Service Union Daniel Otabo said the union is asking the management to honor the promise made to their staff.
They have reneged on the agreement despite series of meetings, correspondence, including a memorandum of understanding that we signed.
Tujaki said Public Complaints Commission is supposed to protect the interests of the ordinary people.
That's what makes it interesting, that a commission that is meant to be responsible for making sure there is no administrative injustice has now become the victim. So that's what makes it very interesting, that we are the victim, we are always the victim. So what we are here for is, as a result of administrative injustice, things that ought to have been done that were not done. That is exactly what we are protesting for today.
Yesterday, we didn't reach a truce. The negotiation ended in a deadlock.
The management and the three unions have returned to the negotiating table to arrive at amicable decision. In the meantime, the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria has reduced the number of days for pilgrims' stay in Medina from 7 to 5 days to avoid stampede due to the massive inflow of visitors across the world. To this end, Adamawa pilgrims are rounding up their stay with a visit to major Islamic landmarks in the second holiest city in Islam. Sharif Al-Hassan files in this report from Medina.
Medina is the first contact and melting point of all intending pilgrims coming into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia before heading to perform the Hajj rites in Mecca. It is also the second holiest city in Islam after Mecca and celebrated as the place from which Prophet Muhammad established the Muslim community after his migration from Mecca. From its iconic Masjid al-Nabawi Mosque to structural design of buildings and rich Islamic heritage that captures the minds of the visitors. Nigerian pilgrims are not left out of this expedition.
Nigerian pilgrims from Adamawa State today will be visiting some major Islamic landmarks here in the city of Medina, the home of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Areas to be visited include the dead crown of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Quba Mosque, the Qiblatani Mosque, the Grand Mosque of the Holy Prophet here in Medina, and of course, other areas needed to be visited by pilgrims throughout their stay in the holy city of Medina. Adamawa State intending pilgrims' first port of call is the Quba Mosque, the one you are seeing very right behind me. It holds an important place in the minds of Muslims across the world.
Al-Quba Masjid is the first masjid that was built by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was migrating from Mecca to Medina. He stopped over at Quba. Quba is a village 5 kilometers before entering Medina. So he stopped there. He prayed for 3 days. After that prayer for 3 days, so also Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first Jumu'ah that he prayed in Medina was here in Masjid al-Quba. And at the same time, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, anyone amongst you who perform his ablution in the middle of Medina and he travels down to Masjid al-Quba and offer 2 rak'ah prayers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward him with Umrah.
Among other areas visited by the Adamawa State intending pilgrims included the Mount of Uhud and the date farm of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina.
Don haka suna nan anan tun da aka binne su kuma ba sake binne kowa ba anan.
This is a place where the Battle of Uhud took place, and we have like 70 Sahabas that are lying behind us here. We have the first tomb has about 3 people, 3 Sahabas, including the uncle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is Hamza. Well, the other hall has about 67 Sahabas that are lying there, about 70 of them. So we come here to just pray for them.
With the visit to these major Islamic landmarks, Nigerian pilgrims have begun moving out of Medina to Mecca, the hub of the Hajj exercise.
And now away from Nigeria, Saudi Arabia and the US, who have been brokering talks, in a joint statement said Sudan's warring sides have agreed on a nationwide ceasefire for 24 hours from 6 a.m. on Saturday. Sudan's army and the paramilitary rapid support forces RSF agreed they will refrain from prohibited movements, attacks, use of aircraft or drones, aerial bombardment, artillery strikes, reinforcement of positions and resupply of forces. If the parties failed to observe the ceasefire, facilitators will be compelled to consider adjoining the Jeddah talks. The US and Saudi joint statement added, referring to negotiations to try to end almost 2 months of clashes in Sudan. Both sides have broken a string of ceasefire agreements, though a recent truce deal laid a limited amount of humanitarian aid. Humanitarian agencies said the conflict in Sudan derailed the launch of a transition towards civilian rule for years. After a popular uprising ousted strongman President Omar al-Bashir, Sudan's army and the RSF felt over the chain of command and military restructuring plans during the transition. And now finally in sports, Nigeria's Super Falcons moved up 2 places in the latest women's ranking released by the Federation of International Football Association FIFA. The Super Falcons moved from 42nd to 40th position in the latest ranking published on FIFA's official website on Friday. It is the final ranking before the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, which will be co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand in July. Randy Waldrum's side maintained first position in Africa. Alongside the Falcons, South Africa, Morocco and Zambia will represent Africa at the Women's World Cup. The next ranking will be published on 25th August 2023. With that, we have come to the end of the Trust TV's news update. Do not forget to follow us across all our media platforms and our YouTube live stream. I am Abdurrahman Omar. Thanks for watching and bye for now.